The newest entry into the mainline FNAF games, Secret of the Mimic, releases next week. Now, obviously, a lot of people are very excited, including myself, to see what this game contains. I think that new FNAF releases at this point are more hyped up for the story rather than the actual gameplay itself, but that's a topic for a different video. Today, I just wanted to do a quick theory discussing what I think will happen in Secret of the Mimic, what secrets, a bad joke is tradition at this point, reveals, and any other side details or lore hints we might get from this game. Make sure to like the video if you like it, and subscribe for more FNAF content and more Mimic videos this month. With that, let's begin. Real quick, some background about me and my experience with the modern FNAF lore. I have read the first Tales from the Pizzaplex story, and I don't think any of the other ones. And I also have not followed a whole lot of the finer details that we get from this line of books. I do know about Edwin and David and why the Mimic acts the way it does in the books, but that's pretty much it. And it's pretty much only because of that one stupid song that came out a couple of months ago. Anyways, let's talk about what I believe this game could look like. The first question I want to answer is, who do we play as? We play as someone, obviously, but I think someone who is somewhat relevant in the story. Based on the time frame, I think this could really only be Henry or William, as there's no other super important characters that would be tasked with something as dangerous as retrieving the Mimic this early on in the timeline. Why am I confident this is the case? Well, ever since Steelwool took over the creation of these games, the player character has always been important. In Help Wanted, maybe not so much, but every game since then. Security Breach shows us Gregory, who isn't important in that game, but his actions become important later on, especially with him freeing Vanessa and later helping to trap the Mimic in some way. In Ruin, we play as Cassie, whose story isn't quite important yet, but I feel will be revealed as an important part of whatever happens after Ruin. Then, in Help Wanted 2, we play as Cassie's dad, who I believe also has something to do with trapping the Mimic in some way. Point is, all of these characters are story relevant in some way, and I think that this next game will be no different. My next question, and one that is a lot more interesting to me, is about what will happen throughout the game. Looking at all of the teaser and promotional content, as well as the Daco interview, I think that this game will be pretty straightforward on the surface, with a lot of hidden details that'll dive into the earliest parts of the FNAF timeline. The main game will have us exploring the remains of Murray's Costume Manor shortly after Edwin goes missing. I think that we will find something in this game that tells us he was killed by the Mimic in some way, whether this is like a news article, or I think it'll be like security camera footage or like a tape or something like that that shows the Mimic acting up. Whatever it is, we are tasked with retrieving said Mimic, as well as any other valuable technology that might be contained within the facility. This will probably include things like the coffee machine and the coat rack from the Mimic Monday teasers, but I actually believe those have more significant meaning that I will explore later in this video. Once we get through all the puzzles, scares, and chases of the factory, we will in fact be successful in retrieving the Mimic, but not without some major trouble. Whether through the discovery of Edwin's death by the Mimic, or some other incident that occurred, we will learn about just how dangerous this endo is. This could be, again, finding an article about how David died, or some other random bad thing that happened with the Mimic. Even after discovering this, we proceed to obtain the endo anyways, and the game ends with us taking it back in our van to Fazbear Entertainment. That's pretty much how I think the surface level of this game will go, but the hidden stuff would be far more interesting. In the interview with Daco, it was stated that a large amount of this game is hidden story stuff. I think these would give the fans some much needed context about the earliest points we know about. Fall Fest, Fredbear's Family Diner, the origins of Fazbear Entertainment as a whole. There are Fredbear's posters up in the factory, so at the very least, we will learn something about that. Perhaps we learn more details of the Afton family themselves, you know, Mrs. Afton or stuff like that. Or we will learn about what I want the most, how Henry and Afton actually came to be business partners in the first place. This game is unique in modern FNAF, as it's going backwards rather than forwards, something that hasn't happened this majorly since Sister Location. Every game after that reveals a little bit of the past through hidden mini games and examples like that, but the games themselves all take place later than the last. This game is most likely what has manifested from Steelwool wanting to make a Fredbear's game, so I expect a lot of early details and whatnot, especially relating to Fredbear's Diner specifically. Besides that, there's not many events that have happened yet at this point in the timeline. We don't have any deaths this early on, and no super significant story events either. I hope for them to build greatly on this early FNAF timeline. Going back to what I said earlier, I think that these teasers we've been getting in the form of short archive-style footage will play a fairly significant part in setting up how the Mimic was created. The first one, the so-called Stay Up Latte, features this coffee machine. At first, this reminded me of coffee from FNAF World, originally from The Desolate Hope, but after watching it over a couple of times, I don't think this is just a silly reference. The machine is said to be always watching and always learning, which reminds me of a very special character. I think this invention was an early prototype of some of the technology found within the modern day Mimic. The ability to watch and learn, and then to be able to create something based on what it sees is exactly like the Mimic. That's not all though, we also got a teaser for an invention called Murray's Magic Coat Rack. This one features a coat rack with the ability to change shape to fit anything that you may need it to hold. Sound familiar? Yeah, the Mimic has the same ability, being able to change into many different costumes. I think that we will see more of these archive tapes, not just up until release, but within the game itself. So this is editing me, and I was pretty much completely right about this. After I recorded this video, we got the Murray's Cleanovac, which I'm not sure how the vacuum aspect plays into the Mimic, but I am sure that the Cleanovac can again change shape into whatever size the person needs it to be, which is just another thing that the Mimic can do. It's kind of like the coat rack. It's the same kind of deal. You know, they also mentioned this thing being able to be like a friend or a companion or whatever. And I'm just now realizing that that is exactly what the Mimic was made for, from what I've heard anyways, for David in the books. So that is another parallel with the Mimic that these inventions have. We know that the Mimic can also copy voices, so I expect at least one more of these tapes that has a creation capable of that. I'm imagining kind of a Poppy Playtime type system where you find tapes and can put them on a TV in the factory somewhere. These may even feature other capabilities of the Mimic that we don't currently know, and could be used to essentially teach the player about a section of the game that is coming up, as well as explain some lore details on how the Mimic was originally created. Another quick thing that I want to talk about is about the characters that are featured in the trailers that we've seen so far. Now, I don't know about you, but I think it is insanely weird for there to be both a large music man and a form of Helpy within the factory. This would have rather large lore implications. Did Edwin create these two characters? If so, what other future Fazbear Entertainment characters originated from Edwin and his creations? This is a detail that I haven't really heard anyone discuss, despite the possible significance of something like this. It doesn't stop there though. Why are there posters of Fredbear's Diner inside the factory? Now, Edwin is said to be a contractor for Fazbear Entertainment, but that wouldn't necessarily mean he'd have up Fredbear's posters. Just a couple of points to think about. I'm not fully sure what they could mean for the lore, but I really hope that they don't mess up too much of the early stuff. I'm hoping that this game explains the early stuff more than adding unnecessary details. I guess besides the Mimic, because the Mimic was never originally planned, obviously, and now this is just kind of a thing that they're trying to go back and add. But I think they can do an okay job with that. I don't think that they should have Edwin creating characters that Fazbear Entertainment later used. Now on to gameplay. I honestly don't know what I'm expecting. From the trailer, I have to be honest and say that it doesn't look too interesting. And with all the new suits the Mimic will use, almost doesn't even look like a FNAF game anymore. That's partially why I think that Music Man and Helpy were included in the first place. To me, it just looks like another generic indie horror game, with puzzles that honestly don't seem too interesting, which is kinda disappointing. I could be wrong about that, and I do really hope that I am, but currently I'm not super excited for the actual gameplay aspects of this game, but rather all the lore we will be getting out of it. I also think that this game is being made out of necessity for people like me who haven't read the books and kind of have little to no clue as to where the Mimic came from and why he's been under the Pizzaplex, well, forever. Overall, this game has me very hyped for all the lore it will contain. Not so much the gameplay, but hopefully I will be pleasantly surprised by what Steelwool has cooked up. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I will be playing this game on release and posting it in parts on the channel. I do not know how long the game is, so I don't know how many parts it will be. When I finished this game, I was originally going to do like a lore summary video of the game, but I don't really know if I'm going to do that anymore. And my reasoning behind it is that everybody's going to do a summary video. People are probably going to have them out like the first day that the game is out. And it's going to take me a couple of days to finish the game. And then I have to make the video and edit it. I'm not very fast with editing. So I might just end up doing a different video about the location itself, the costume manor, as they're calling it. I'm also just not that good at making theories in general. So there's better people out there that are going to do that for sure, but I am probably not the one. I mean, let me know if you guys still want a theory video, because I will do one if people want it, but I don't know. I kind of just want to go over the location instead, but you know, let me know. I'll also look back at this video and see just how close I was, if I got anything right, stuff like that. As always, thank you for watching today's video. If you liked it, be sure to like it as it helps me out a lot. Consider subscribing for lots more FNAF content, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye, superstars.